Pop metal.
All right, well, I'll say we're here today in Winchester, Virginia at Blue Fox, I guess just on Fox Bar and Grill. We're here with Tubefreeks from Frederick, Maryland, and I'm gonna see if I can get my memory right. It's Paul, Chris, which I gotta remember that one, George,
That's right.
and Brian.
That's right.
Wow, doing good.
Got it.
All right, so
Thanks a lot for having us out, fellas, man. We're excited to be here.
yeah, and-
Here we go.
So we're gonna catch these guys. We're doing a pre-interview. We're doing an interview before the show. You guys will be performing, you're headlining tonight. The bands that are opening up, are they local bands from here? Are they some bands that y'all know? Or
You know, I don't know much about American Dharma, the first band, but they're real nice guys. The second band, Cursor, they're a real good band, and they said that theirs kind of spread out. I think one of them is from Culpeper and one's from Berkeley Springs, which is
Wow.
far
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
But they're dedicated, and
well,
they seem to be
they're all
great.
new to us, so when we enjoy checking out new bands, and that's kind of how we came across you. You guys were new to us too. Y'all were talking earlier about the publicist. We got in with him, and he sent out. That man is a busy man. 'Cause I swear he sends like 12 to 20 emails every day with bands, so it gets a little flooded, and yours stuck out to us. So,
Oh,
so
that's
yeah.
good to hear.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot.
So yeah,
He works
so,
hard.
Yeah, I don't know what y'all pay him, but he definitely earns his money. So.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. So I guess we didn't say. So you're a bass player and singer,
Correct.
and you're a drummer.
Yep.
And then you're both guitarists. And so the band has been a band since the '90s. Is that right?
Yes, it has.
Okay. And I know from just watching some videos, it's been through multiple band lineup changes, but what kind of got the band started? And I'm assuming you were the one that kind of got the ball rolling in the early days, and then
Well, that's right. I'm the founder. And so we always, from day one, went out with the premise of we want to just write some great rock tunes that are going to kick you in the face. If you ever look back at those old interviews, and we've always had great guitar work, riffs, killer drums, and good melodic vocals, but heavy underneath. And so through the years, working with people, we all know what it's like. Things happen, and people have different things that come up in their lives. Everybody's ever been in the band. We're all just, family. But each time that we have had some different members, we always stay true to the same formula. And these guys have, done the same thing. I mean, Chris is just a phenomenal drummer, and these guys are amazing players. And so I know you asked me about the old days, but I will say that I am so happy with this current one.
well, and that's what I was kind of leading into. So keeping the band together for all those years, and what we saw in just sound check earlier, top notch, phenomenal sound.
Thank you.
How do you keep a band together for all these years? I mean, is it, especially starting around in the '90s, that was a difficult time. I mean,
Well, and these guys can handle some questions at some point too. But the thing is that it's different for bands that are national or signed bands. When you're an independent band, it's, you might say, high level amateur. You have guys that are giving their own time and their own money, as opposed to like maybe a tribute band that gets paid, or a cover band. A lot of times we don't get paid. And so it's just a matter of having guys that are at the time want to do it, and
dedication. It takes a lot of passion and dedication.
I think knowing everybody also helps as well. Like, it's a lot harder when you got like one person that doesn't know any of the other guys, and it's like when everybody knows each other well, it's a team more than anything.
Well, it's like it's a better chemistry kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Well, it helps with songwriting too. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure, knowing each other well, knowing what this person's probably gonna do here. And,
Well, you feed off each other. You know, if he's doing something on the drums, I got something perfect for that. You kind of know where he's going, and he knows where you're going, and you definitely have that feed.
Yeah, and with the current
That's right.
lineup, it's definitely that way.
That's cool.
We all respect each other's positions and what everybody has to say. So
Yeah,
That's what makes it work there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all about working together and everybody wanting to rock and do the same thing.
Yeah, and when you said, independent bands, it's hard to keep it together, and it's hard. You got, your family life and everything, your jobs, keeping that all together just so you can go out on the weekends and play those shows, and that's why it's probably a big struggle for former members and stuff. They just didn't want to stick with that. They just got too difficult. It broke things up at home, and that's kind of what I was kind of going with that. It's being an independent band is a big struggle.
That's right, and everyone needs to be on the same page in terms of so many different things. And guys can have stuff comes up in their life, sad stuff can happen to people that kind of takes them out. But even if it's not something like that, maybe one guy wants to do some music that's not as heavy. Maybe one guy wants to gig a lot more. Maybe one guy wants to play some covers. Maybe one guy wants to travel, another guy doesn't. And so your objectives have to be somewhat similar
Yeah.
so that you're all on the same page. Because if one guy wants to do one thing and the other guy wants to do a different thing, well, that,
Yeah.
creates an issue.
Guess we were talking the other day. We watched 3 videos. We watched from Unhinged. One had 4 members, and the other 2 had 3. We was just kind of all wondering about that.
You want to handle that one, Chris, or you want me to?
You can handle that one.
Well, Brian played on our previous album. So the Dry Tide, if you go and watch any of those videos, we put out a bunch of videos. And Brian was the guitarist, the lead guitarist on that band. And we had an opportunity to have George and Brian in the band. And so we took advantage of it. And kind of relates to what you mentioned about various members and so forth. But Brian's already been on a bunch of videos, although he wasn't on the Unhinged videos.
So who actually was kind of in charge of doing it? Is that something you did out of pocket on your own on all the videos? Within, the newer, on the Unhinged stuff, as far as all that, because that's a lot of work making videos for one thing, and then they're all like high quality, like top notch looking videos too. So that's.
Oh, well, thank you. And we found some really good guys. If you want to tell them a little about the guys who
Shout
did
out
the
to
videos.
Anthony and Eric. Who shot the videos. Anthony, he shot the.
Anthony Altamira.
That's his last name. But yeah, no, he's awesome guy to get along with. He plays in a band as well. So he's familiar with a lot of what the heavier bands are doing. He knew what we're trying to go for and everything. Super cool to work with. Made the process really easy and smooth for us. Same thing with Eric DiCarlo. He shot both the Preacher Dog and Casualty videos for us. We had more, other ideas that we brought to the table for those 2 videos versus Release the Crow. We had some concepts, but Anthony was kind of like, hey, I got this idea, and he pitched it to us, and we liked it, so we went with it. Whereas the other 2 were like, we got these ideas, so we brought them to the table, and then he just kind of helped us get the rest of the way.
Well, you mentioned Release the Crow. Just a little side note. Was that video inspired? I got a poltergeist feel from that. Was there any?
Well, so Anthony, he storyboards it, so there were some differences. Anthony Altamira was a little more where he gave you he helped us design the concept, and he did have that, ish concept.
Well, just the whole
going
TV with the hands on the screen. That's the first thing I thought of.
That was a good friend of ours, Jenny, who played was the girl in the video. And but like Chris said, so Eric DiCarlo, who did the other videos, he's done a ton of stuff, but he's a little more where when you work with him, he's relying on you a little more to come up with the concept. And so, both methods worked great. We did save up our money and sold some merch and paid for it ourselves. And I just want to comment on that because personally, I think everyone would agree that these days music is consumed so much on social media.
Yeah.
And what band do you see that's making any progress out there that doesn't have a video?
Yeah.
And so you got to get a video, right?
Yeah.
And so, by hook or by crook, we put that together to work with those because we were super proud of the music, and we wanted to say, hey, let's get this out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's even talks that Metallica's making a video for every single song on their new album. So that tells you how big of a market it is. If Metallica's doing it, it's probably a thing.
There's a lot of bands doing that these days.
Yeah.
Because that's how people consume music a lot. Now, there's people that do Spotify and Sirius Radio too. But think of how many people get their music from YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, and he and I grew up on MTV. That's where we got all the great new stuff that was coming out.
Back when they
We
played
stayed
music
up.
videos.
Yeah.
You want
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. And that's right too. They got new episodes of that. So, you don't have.
Give him Beavis.
My Butthead's better.
Now give him Butthead. I'll give him Beavis.
Fell down there,
But so, when MTV kind of stopped playing videos, you didn't have that. So thank God we got YouTube and we have something where we can watch it. I mean, he and I are always throwing something out. Coach, have you seen this video yet? And it's like, it's still in our blood. I mean, and a lot of our audience. I mean, we got a lot of guys our age that that send us stuff all the time, and we got people in Japan, and it's like throwing all these great bands and stuff we never heard of, and it's kind of like the old tape trading days, but with videos now. You can just like that, you got it. So it's.
I know, and whenever you hear of a new band, you put it in Google, and the first thing that comes up is usually their top video. And so you say you can assume, well, that's probably one of their best songs, and so you can get a feel for the band right away. But you gotta have that video there, right?
Yeah. So kudos for.
Oh, thank you.
Put that time and money and effort into that. 'Cause that's awesome.
Well, you got to believe in what you're doing too.
Amen.
If you're gonna do that.
Amen. So the Casualty is probably one of my favorite songs on the album. It has that heavy feel, and lyrically it falls well in line kind of with today's current events. Let's just say, was that kind of the main focus in that song? Kind of like feeding off of what?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without getting political
Yes.
about it, because we didn't want to. I mean, some bands can get away with that.
Yeah.
They were good at doing that, but we didn't want to be that political band that start pissing people off.
Well, you split your fan base up.
Yeah.
Like Ted Nugent does.
Yeah.
I love Ted Nugent, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's,
But it's one of those things. It's like like you said, kind of sums up what basically the world is like.
Yeah.
With kind of current events and everything, and you can still kind of interpret it in your own ways, whether it's with world events or your own life or just really whatever.
I kind of felt like the music really fit with that. Lyrically, how it was kind of heavier, and lyrically you felt like the weight of all the shit that's going on in the world. So I kind of felt that out of it. I don't know if that was the intent in it, but what I got out of it.
No, and I remember when we were putting that together for the lyrics and so forth, that it was that same thing, but we kind of, I remember thinking about guys that will come out and try and tell you about how something's, so good and it's going to help everybody, and they're making all this profit and off of something, and they're just, I guess not brainwashing is not a good word, but just convincing everybody that this is so great for them, when in reality it's not, but they're convincing you that it is. And so, it didn't have anything to do with politics. It was just like people taking advantage of other people. for like profit or whatever.
Yeah, plenty of that going on.
Yeah.
It's always been going on.
Yeah.
You know, the line, "You're straight up shit and killing us all." You know, that was kind of the culmination of that, the ending of that particular verse, where it was like, "Oh, you're feeding us this line and this. Well, this is what's going on. You know, you're telling us it's so great, but you're killing us all."
Yeah.
So,
All right, so Chris, you did the engineering for the album.
I did.
Does that include within the recording process?
Yep. I wore all the hats on the production except for the mastering. Shout out to Brian Murphy at Soundporter Mastering. He killed it at the end of that. We also had some assistance with Machine, Gene Freeman, producer. He's done the Clutch, Lamb of God. So
Digging into that one too.
yeah, so we reached out to him to get some feedback, just some tips, the little adjustments that might need to be made to bring it the rest of the way, because what's really tough about us engineering it ourselves is not only have we heard the songs a million times during the writing process, but here when I'm sitting there editing or mixing, it's like it's the same process all over again. And so it's really easy to lose perspective on things. It's really easy to get yourself, go down that rabbit hole where you think, it needs another adjustment or whatever, and you just, 5 months later, you're still working on the same thing. You just gotta just get it done. But no, it was challenging. It was a good experience, though. I think it came out, pretty well in the end.
this guy worked his butt off, and he did a phenomenal job. To bring it to the level that it came out, where it came out, was incredible. And even when we went to Gene Freeman, who he's not only worked with Clutch and Lamb of God, but he's done some of the best material. And when we met with him, George could talk a little bit about this too. He was just like, well, okay, we're just going to talk about some tweaks, because he's like, you guys already got it dialed in.
That's awesome.
He was so complimenting.
He's not the kind of guy that wants to unless he's asked to step in and change stuff and reproduce it, because basically his vibe is more like, okay, you've got your overall song, let's just see what we can do to sonically make it better.
But he already was very impressed with what Chris had done right when we started. So it was just really tweaks.
Yeah.
But the good thing about when we reached out to him was, it put more pressure on me. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, but that's a good
It was a good amount of pressure. I'm like, okay, kind of got me to, okay, we're gonna get this and this done. Just get it done, and then just really, it got me to actually focus a little bit better.
Yeah, when
to
you
the
work with
things
somebody
that were
like that-
actually the issues, that are not really issues, but the things that needed.
When you work with somebody like that, it really makes you step your game all the way up to what, even something that you didn't even know yet.
Yeah, it's really easy to kind of second guess myself too. I'm like, oh no, it gets to the point I'm like, all right, I think I'm comfortable presenting this to him now.
Yeah, and I know you're maybe going to ask us about it, but I'll just tell you, the first time, you do these Zoom sessions and he can work with the music. And the first time, he pops up on your screen, you're like, holy shit. You're like, there he is.
What do I say?
And then he's the coolest guy. He's like, hey guys, what's up?
He was super awesome working.
We're like, oh, hi.
He was
Right
awesome.
under the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very easy to work with. He was super fun to work with.
He was super cool.
And what was really nice about that, to kind of hit on maybe some of the tech stuff, he started, saying the Zoom call thing. He was at his home studio he's got 2 studios, but his next studio's up in New Jersey, where he lives, and I was just down at my house, and I got my own home studio, and so he was able to actually see, able to screen share my Pro Tools session via, Zoom, and then able to still communicate with him. He was able to take the audio feed from me without any sort of losslessness or anything like that, so still retain all the audio quality and everything, just live over an internet connection.
The real same
And-
audio quality, not through a computer with crappy quality.
So what's nice about that is I'm able to show him the layout of the land. Okay, this is the layout here, and here's what we got going on. He's okay, and then he can actually kind of assess things on his end.
these guys are like, let's tweak the 17 or the 1 or the 45 over here and the ones. And I was like, boy.
I know we used to help some friends of ours. They had a band, and then I got put in charge of the soundboard, and I'm like, shit, I got a lot of buttons on this thing.
No,
It is intimidating
Yeah.
at first,
It
but
was
you
so
know how
much
to
fun.
operate one channel.
Yeah, you can do it all day. Yeah. But so this was like your first official time, like putting that much energy into the engineering field, or have you had more?
I know. I've that's like one of the things I do outside my regular job. It's that's one of my goals is to do music production full time, whether it's producing bands or just mixing and mastering, all the above. I've done all the above. Yeah. So I've produced other bands before. Although, I mean, if I didn't, there's no way I would have just jumped in here without that experience, because it's a lot to take on, especially like when you're in the band. Because you can get, just like you were saying earlier, you can get overly critical about stuff.
But you're still here, so they didn't. Stuff you in the closet.
And in all
I know there's
honesty,
times we went into here and there, but that's normal.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some big shoes to follow, because our previous album, now the music was a little different and we didn't quite do some of the same things, but Brian played on the Dry Tide. That was engineered by Frank Marchand, who is a guy that's done a lot of national label stuff himself.
He's a solid engineer.
And he's solid, and so, Chris was coming up on the heels of that, and so did an awesome job.
Good job.
Good job, Chris.
They didn't kill you, and you got kudos from the machines.
They can kill me,
Yeah.
So we was gonna ask a little bit about what the experience was, but we already kind of covered that.
The one thing I want to add to the introduction thing, what's actually really good about us doing that ourselves was it freed up so much time. Like, we didn't have a budget or a time frame.
Yeah.
So we could actually take as much time as we want to, whether it's arranging riffs or literally everything from drums, bass, like everything. Leave no stone left unturned. And
It's probably one of the biggest money pits, I guess, when the band's going into the studio recording.
Because that's the thing, because I've been in those shoes before. Was that you get in there, and I've worked with bands before they had a certain budget. So like my job is to keep everything, under budget and on time, which is really difficult. You didn't have to rush through stuff, or it's like you had to make certain decisions. So it's kind of hard to prioritize certain things over others. Whereas like this, what also bought us a lot of time, even going back to when we were writing the stuff, was as bad as the pandemic was for the whole world, it actually bought us a lot of time because there's no live shows there for a while. So it bought us a lot of time to really just hone in and refine the arrangements.
Yeah, for a situation like that.
So it bought us like a couple more years.
Having that time was great.
Oh yeah.
Allowed us to do so many extra things.
Yeah, because there was so many bands that were in the studio, worked out pretty okay for them, but then those ones that were getting ready to put that album out and go tour and just crush so many.
I know. I felt so bad for so many bands where it worked against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
And
bands
we
had to
were
shelf
so
their
lucky it
albums.
worked in our favor on a lot of
The
stuff.
last band that I interviewed, that was what happened to them. It was just a timing thing. Pandemic hit, when they were ready to drop their album, and you don't want to lose all that momentum, and you just got to go with it.
We were talking about momentum with Dale, who booked the show here. He plays in Demise, and then the guys at Cursor. And momentum is so important, and it's so hard to get, and it's so hard to keep. And whenever that momentum dies because of something like that, well, when you come back out a couple years later, people are like, well, who are you?
Yeah.
It's almost like you're starting over again.
What he was saying, even if they would have waited, them songs, they would have lost that energy too of them, because they wouldn't have, the songs were fresh and they were enjoying them. You add another year onto that, and then is that energy still going to be there?
It's like old
Right.
news. It's like old news to yourself.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, us being here in Virginia, that's where we've grown up all of our lives, we're about 45 minutes down the road. We're just hop, skipping, and jump here to West Virginia. You might know where I'm going with this. we made our own trips to West Virginia many a night for
Kind of the same deal.
multiple reasons.
I know where you're going with this.
Kind of wonder maybe what your trips to West Virginia involve.
Well, one thing that's true about it is that we all live really close to West Virginia.
Yeah.
We're like a
So
half
we
an hour.
basically
We go there a lot.
I mean, you drive 5 minutes the wrong direction.
So
to West Virginia.
you're not asking us about the song West Virginia, are you?
Maybe.
Not that it's the wrong direction necessarily, but I'm just saying if you miss your turn, you end up over that bridge or
Yeah.
somewhere else. So
Yeah.
we've all kind of grown up around that culture right over the line there. Yeah, it's a different culture than where we're from. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
and even for us,
Yeah, not that it's worse or better or anything, but it's definitely different.
it's different. Yes.
Yeah.
And it depends on where you go, it gets way different.
That's true.
How deep in the woods you go.
I just watched this thing, The Whitakers. As a boat summer. If y'all have not checked
I know what
that
you're
out,
talking about, yeah.
and then you think, man, we can't believe it. I mean, you cannot literally believe it.
Well, so to give you the story behind it, okay, so we had that piece of music that's actually a lot different than a lot of the other songs on the album. It's
Yeah.
got that wow, almost somebody said that
It's like
it
a
almost had
90s, like a
Primus
yeah,
feel or
it's
something.
almost like a
And so we loved the music, and so that chorus though, where it kind of gets a little more like straightforward. Just in practice, we were just because we always write the music before we write the lyrics and the melody lines and so forth. And so, it was just like da da da. I was just like, it just popped. I just started singing. I was like, I went down to West Virginia, and we all just started laughing because we were saying that. We're like, all right, gotta see if we can come up with something that's like a parody, but we didn't want to be too insulting.
we want to like we didn't want to make fun.
Yeah,
of
we didn't want to make fun of people, but we wanted to have fun with it. And we hope we haven't pissed too many people off.
I
But
think you pulled it off.
Yeah.
You get exactly, when I listen to it, you get exactly what you said there is how I interpret the song first time I
Yeah.
heard it.
We got-
I didn't take it as an insult.
Yeah.
It brought
Some of
memories
it,
back.
some of the lyrical content was just totally by, like you're saying, just off the cuff. But some of it was by accident because like we were just doing pre-production on like what's that line in the bridge?
yeah,
The original line was different. It was the original line was I got my four-wheeling babe.
Yes, so I had my four-wheeling babe. I was thinking like a girl that does four-wheel, and yeah.
But yeah, so we're just doing pre-production, working vocal ideas out. He was in front of like I was running Pro Tools, whatever, and I had to stop him. I was like, wait, what did you just say? And then he's like, I said four-wheeling babe. I'm like, oh, because I literally thought he said I got my four-wheeler in bed. So that became a joke. We started laughing about that.
Oh my God!
And so we're like, oh, dude, we should keep it like that. So that's how that was.
I was like, hell yeah, I got my four-wheeler in bed. And then we go, oh, pretty little thing.
So the whole point being, like, there's a lot of people in that culture, whatever, that like four-wheeling. So.
Well, and you brought up the line in there about the 7-Elevens. For us, we can't go to a 7. Well, we can go, but you're not. The selections are a lot different at our 7-Elevens versus West Virginia's because that's their liquor stores.
Right.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because if you look on the album, there is credit to this old friend of ours who helped us think of a couple of lyrics. And so I always had the John Denver song. I think it was John Denver who played the song, Country roads, take me almost home, take me, And so I was like that. And then he was like, almost heaven, take me out to 7-Eleven. I was like, oh, that's a good one.
It worked because it worked. I mean, there were several times there were 7-Eleven runs because they stayed open later. You could get liquor, you get beer. Ours always closed earlier.
Absolutely. That last run before they close it, running in the door before they put the chains on the coolers.
Yeah. Well, my cousin lives in Kentucky, in the area she lived was a dry area. So we went down for graduation, and they had, I don't know, 2 or 3 guys who went out for a beer run, and
that was the weirdest.
It was like 3 or 4 hours later. And it was like the party was over, and it was like, we just figured they just ripped the money in. We're like, oh my God, we didn't know about the whole drive. It wasn't. We don't
I
have
didn't
that
think
in
that was
Virginia.
I didn't think that was a thing in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So you're saying they had to drive quite the ways?
Yeah, they had. I don't know where they went, but it was like 3. We
Couple
ended up-
counties over, huh?
Yeah,
I
so-
went to Tennessee.
Yeah, they might have. But the sad thing was, the party was over. We ended up taking the beer back to the hotel, and it was just like, by that point, we weren't even, it was just like worthless. It was like, I think we ended up drinking 1 or 2, and like, man, screw this, we're going to bed.
Well, for the record, we love West Virginia and the people, and it's such a beautiful state.
Oh, yeah.
There's anybody out there who's offended, please don't take it that way.
Yeah,
If you
because
see me fishing in West Virginia, don't throw me in the river. I do fish there.
there's lots to do in West Virginia. Like, there's four-wheeling, and you mentioned being a hiker.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
beautiful mountain
Beautiful.
areas over there.
Well, even
There's
gambling.
just- Yeah,
The
there's
casino,
gambling.
Hollywood Casino.
Yeah,
is just
Yeah,
right.
can't
Lots
forget
to do in West Virginia.
The lady clubs.
Yeah, most of our outdoor recreation has to do with West Virginia. A lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, so no insults, well, at least from our side of it. I hope nobody else got that. It just brought back memories for at least me, and I'm assuming him too. So.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be one of those
Good,
fun
good.
songs.
Yeah.
And it was.
Really?
Yeah,
And I was like, that
it
song,
really
it's like you
stuck
said,
out.
it stands out from the rest of the album, but it stands out in a good way.
Yeah.
And it was
Good.
like, wow, like, as soon as I got to work, I was like, you gotta listen to that song, that'll bring back, and I think you must listen to it about the same time.
It's funny because that was one of those songs that almost didn't even make the cut. And
Yeah.
we were on the fence about that. We're like, because like you're saying, it does sound completely different from all the other songs. So we're kind of like, well,
And we
but at the
asked,
same time, we're like, well, I mean, it's different.
and we asked Machine what he thought about the song.
He loved it.
And I remember his tone of voice. He's like, oh, gotta keep that song.
Yeah, yeah. It's
We're like,
that was,
okay.
that was pretty much the mannerisms.
Like,
we had,
Machine
he
says
talked to
keep it
me,
on the
he's kinda
album,
like
we're gonna keep it on
nonchalant,
the album.
Well, that's great.
Shout out to Machine.
Yeah, thanks for keeping that one on here.
Thank you. All right, well, so we know the meaning behind the name. What's
Well, Brian hasn't said much.
You told me not to talk.
Do you think you can handle that one, or
I
would
think
you?
I've heard you explain it enough. Isn't it something to do with people that used to be obsessed with TV and all they would do was watch TV all the time? They were
Is it like derived from?
That's where the original name came from. Was a book. It was this drying out place for Tubefreeks, and in a book called Vineland, and he spelled it the same way with the 2 E's. But there's a piece on our website about it. What else do people that were Tubefreeks? So over the years, there's been a lot of people that say, well, so
He's like,
surfers are Tubefreaks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Drug references.
People that smoke various substances out of bongs are Tubefreaks.
Yeah, yeah.
People that play like guitar amps are Tubefreaks.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a sexual connotation to it that girls who like body parts on guys are
Don't
Tubefreaks.
necessarily have to be body parts.
Yeah.
Maybe sort of inanimate object these days.
Yeah.
So we always like to say that it means whatever you like it to mean.
which is cool.
Yeah.
A couple different interpretations. That's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So Chris and I kind of had a little conversation earlier. You said you grew up listening to a lot of 90s stuff.
90s and like I would say, oh god.
Like new
Well,
metal.
really, I did get into that in like late middle school, probably around. I started getting like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I started getting into bands like Stained and stuff. I was born in
Yeah, I'm
'85.
already
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
you're
already
already-
young.
you're already throwing stuff in here.
Not to make you feel old. I was born in '85.
So, kind of what we're.
Well, actually, I
as far
can
as
backtrack.
influences.
I can backtrack. Yeah, in terms of influences, I mean, I listen to a wide variety of stuff. I attribute that more towards just what my parents listened to. I would say more my dad. Because he was always listening to. I mean, he would go from like Madonna to like Jimi Hendrix to Four Tops, all kinds of stuff. But it's like I remember what really caught my ear was. Throwing Led Zeppelin was a whole lot of love, and I was really digging that. Of course, some Hendrix, and then Boston. That was what really caught my attention. The first album, I think that is their greatest hits.
It's got to be one of the best recorded
It holds up
albums
to
ever.
now. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Masterpiece.
Fantastic album. And it's just, from there. So I started, at that point, I was, figured out I was into more like the rock kind of thing. And then just from listening to the radio, I grew up listening to 99.1 HFS there in Baltimore. And, started hearing like, bands like Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, 311. I started getting into Green Day. That's what kind of directed me towards like the heavy. I know that you hear Green Day, you're like, that's not really that heavy. But back in the time, that was when their album Dookie was out, and they had some that was a fantastic album. And I was like, oh wow, it's got an edge to it. I was like, that I really liked, and then just from there, it's started getting like Smashing Pumpkins, 311, some Stained, and then a band called Seven Dust came along, and they're my favorite band. I love those guys, and just that was pretty much like, okay, that like that type of heaviness was really caught my attention, and just as the years been going by, I started listening to more heavier stuff in the 2000s. Of course, some of that influence, like going to college, and some of my friends, they were listening to like Lamb of God, bands like that, Slipknot. So that's why I started listening to that type of stuff. But yeah, I would say like kind of that late '90s new metal kind of thing, it's kind of new metal, alternative metal, whatever you want to call it, was my main, I guess, background with where I'm at today with Lisa Quiet Flame style, taste. So on top of other stuff, but
Influences, I mean, I could go on all day. I grew up, my sister got me into rock, but all the way from the Beatles to modern bands like Gojira and Ginger and anything and everything in between, from Sabbath to Zeppelin and Aerosmith and Metallica and Rage and Korn and System of a Down and Alice in Chains and on and on.
Too much of it's a distortion on guitar.
Just everything. People say I'm a huge Beatles fan. If you listen to our previous stuff and some on this album too, tons of harmonies. And those guys were masters at writing songs and harmonies. And some people say, oh, it's not that heavy. That doesn't matter. They were incredible. They were geniuses.
they're good at what they did.
Yeah, I just went to Memphis. Elvis Presley, even Elvis Presley, the stuff he done was amazing.
Yeah.
The Sun Studios and all that stuff is just like such a big part of history. And greatness.
Right, and so all of those, influences are across the board for me. Hundreds of bands.
Well, as I do love all the bands that I've already mentioned, probably growing up, my dad listened to like Bruce Springsteen a lot, so I was kind of like listening to that, but that wasn't really my thing. But I'd say bands like Golden Earring, Rolling Stones, Accept. I was big into glam, like when I was probably in my late teens.
Where you look like a glam guy.
Yeah. Little hair, actually flip. Yeah.
Big hair.
Yeah.
Think of that hat. I want to see some of that big hair.
And then,
Are you talking like David Bowie glam, or are you talking
no,
like
like
hair metal?
like hair metal. But I say glam because there's a lot more glam out there than just the metal. Part, which I do like a lot of that too. Much of that. But I'd say as time went on, probably got more into like your Slipknots and stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of a band called Santa Cruz out of Finland.
Oh, they're awesome.
They would be like modern glam.
That's who I was trying to mention earlier.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I was thinking of Heat. I thought he was talking about Heat. But yeah, Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
they are.
they're just shredded. Those guys. So I guess and I'm not saying Santa Cruz is my favorite band of all time, but if you listen to that band, everything that they have going on in that kind of like is what drew me to it, because it's like all the same influences that I had. And you can really hear with them the different influences, and they do a really good job of putting it all together, making it their own thing. I'd say aside from that, classics like Hendrix and Rolling Stones, stuff like that.
As far as this type of music, Tool has been my biggest influence as far as writing stuff. But I've played fiddle in a bunch of bluegrass bands too, so I got away from rock for a long time. But yeah, like Pantera, Dimebag Darrell's got to be the best. Yeah, I really don't get out that much. I don't. All I know is Tubefreeks now.
Don't let his quiet demeanor
All doesn't
fool
let us
you.
listen to a lot of different
This,
music.
this guy's amazing. Like you said, he plays fiddle. I've seen him play in bluegrass bands. He's an amazing musician.
I'm not a fan of bluegrass music, more for the vocal reasons, but
Musicianship.
musicianship, you gotta be on point
Yeah,
to
you gotta
play
be behind that
bluegrass.
pedal.
Yeah,
Distortion pedal.
yeah.
Yeah. Ryan's an
Yeah,
amazing
I don't take anything
musician.
away from, or take anything from anybody that plays in a bluegrass band, because that's some dedicated work right there.
Yeah.
So, y'all from Frederick, what's the music scene like there?
Well,
Man, I don't even know.
Frederick's a great town. Okay, it's, lots to
Mixed
do.
bag, I
Like
guess.
hiking. I'm a big hiker. The mountains are right there. There's tons of breweries and the old school, the old town. But it's a ton of cover bands. So I'm friends with a lot of the guys that play in cover bands because you go out all the time and you run into each other.
It's got a good doom scene going on right now.
Yeah.
A lot of doom.
Yeah,
type
Cafe
bands.
611 is one place that plays original bands, and the Maryland doom scene, yeah.
It's pretty big.
But a lot of
People come
cover
from all around
bands.
for that.
Well, me and him's huge Kicks fans. You know,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
one of Maryland's finest.
Yeah.
I consider finest.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I
y'all
took-
Kicks.
Yeah, actually, the first show they ever played is where the town I'm from that I live in. So.
Yeah.
Westburg, Maryland.
and I took vocal lessons with Steve Whiteman.
There you go.
Yeah. So we're personal friends with several of those guys. Because they were all the
They're
same
class act
scene.
still.
Yeah.
I mean, still to this
Yeah,
day.
they're really
Well, I'm
good.
dating myself a little bit here, which I try not to do, but Kicks came out at the same time with Wrathchild America.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
Souls at Zero? So they used to play at this place in Frederick called the Rabbit's Foot, which was a legendary club. It's now a Mexican restaurant. I was going to say El Mariachi because I know the owner. I go there all the time. But yeah, so Brad Divins,
Oh, yeah.
it was the singer from Wrathchild. He also played on one of Kicks' albums.
Yeah, he's a guitar player on Cool Kids.
Brad it mixed one of the songs that's on our previous album, The Dry Tide, and Brad had mixed some of our old material back when the band first started. And Brad's son, and am I allowed to go into this territory? So,
Whatever you want to talk about.
well, Chris, I actually stole Chris and George from a band that was called Khalesis that was fronted by Brad's son, Zach. Khalesis is a great band. They've got an album out, The Skeleton Key, which is phenomenal. And so we're all sort of family, us Maryland guys. We all, know each other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was referencing earlier. It's like, everybody knows each other, everybody gets along. We've all been in the same circles for a pretty long time.
Well, see, I know, just the small circle you had that I remember in the hair band era when you had the Dirty Looks, Child's Play.
Yeah.
And there's some other band I can't think of that's from Maryland, but they were all tied in. It's like they all spoke highly of each other, kind of like what you're saying. They always, and no one tore
City
up.
Fix,
went
those
to-
guys. Yeah.
Our Hammerjacks. I mean, everybody talked about Hammerjacks.
Hammerjacks was incredible.
Yeah.
I remember hanging out talking to Axl Rose there.
Mm.
And it's so funny when you talk about the hair bands, and like bands like Cinderella.
Yeah.
Oh man, their music was so killer.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them, and you can hear this in interviews with Steve Whiteman too, that when Nirvana came out, and then that kind of changed the tide almost
Oh, big time.
instantaneously. And so a lot of those bands at that time kind of suffered. But over time, it's come back to where a lot of them are big bands still.
Yeah. Kicks is.
Well, I mean, Kicks has been
Yeah.
doing big shows since
Kicks
10
is
years
doing
ago.
great.
So.
They're probably doing better financially, I would say, because they don't have the record company.
Yeah, yeah.
They're probably doing way better now than what they was.
Well, and they're
then.
doing all your rock,
Absolutely.
rock cruises and M3
Yeah.
and all that stuff. It's like,
I mean, their headlines
Absolutely.
through
Right.
Friday nights. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Well, the bass player, Mark Schenker,
Yeah.
when he came into the band, he brought an energy and some expertise that Steve will credit him. You're real familiar with that.
Yeah. you know.
They're great.
Mark does a lot. He's a hard working man in that band.
Mark's badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
like,
they let the reins. They let him have it too, which is cool. You know.
Yeah, they were.
They let go of it.
Yeah.
Well, y'all remember the stories about Donnie Purnell, the
Yeah,
original
yeah.
bass
Yeah.
player. He kind of held them back in a lot of ways.
Man, he wrote some good songs.
He wrote some great songs though, but he was had
Yeah, but he was.
you know,
You
yeah.
could kind of take it either way, I guess.
so
Right.
kind of back to the whole
Yeah.
community thing. That region of Maryland, there, like on the gateway to Western Maryland, Frederick, Hagerstown. I mean, we've played shows with countless kids of these people, and even like Steve Whiteman's daughter. Ben we were in, we played
Yeah, I've seen where
multiple
she's
shows
doing
with
some
her.
stuff.
Yeah, her name's
Yeah.
Carly. Very talented. So it's like it's become a kind of a multi-generational deal with that music.
Yeah.
So it's very cool.
Yeah, we don't. You know, Harrisburg, kind of where we're, the area we're in, and we really don't have a scene at all. Period. I mean, it's like we got to drive just to see a show. I mean, smaller stuff up in this direction, but you know, most of the big shows, we're driving at least an hour, if not 2 to 3 hours, just to get to something. And it's just, you think with big college town, you know, you have a bunch of bars with bands all the time, but we just don't have it yet.
I like the
Well,
the
Frederick
electronic
really-
music now.
Yeah, Frederick doesn't have much for original
Yeah.
bands either. You know, Baltimore back in the day, 930 Club, DC.
I would say
And it used to be-
at least Frederick has kept the music though, like the live music. Even though there's not much of a scene for like original bands right now, there
Tons
still
of
is
cover
like a
bands.
lot of music going on. So you can still go see shows,
Yeah, that's
you know,
good.
stuff, which is good. I think.
They're just frustrating, the cover bands, because, you know, like all of us, I want to go out and see original music. I can stay home and listen to this. You know,
Yeah, you know, but a lot of people, they just want to go out and have a beer and hear a song in the background that they know, and they, you know, if they heard our music, they go, "What's this?"
This is true, but yeah, like, I mean, you got both crowds. I mean, we like to go and hear new bands. You know, I always got that I need to fix. You know, I want
Yeah.
to hear that next band. You know, even if they don't make it big. You know, you got to see them and hear something new, and you know, talk to the bands and stuff. You know,
That's what all of those cover bands, the bands that they're covering at one time, they were all original
Yeah.
bands making their way up,
Yeah.
and so you know, that's where it all came from. So.
So, I know I only read into that you did the 2019 Blue Ridge Rock Fest, but you mentioned that y'all had played 2.
Yes.
So how did you get connected into that to get to play? And then like, I know you said you was trying to get onto another one.
Yes, so 2018 and 2019, we became real good friends with there was a Facebook group that popped up out of nowhere. It's a guy named Todd Stone, who's a real good friend of ours. He's come up and stayed with us in Maryland. He rode with our crew down to see us play at Baltimore Soundstage. Well, Todd was just a regular old guy and just started the fan zone thing. Well, if you go to that page now, there's about 33,000 fans, and it's grown to be huge. And so back then, we had just released the Dry Tide that Brian had played on, and so we were like, well, we want these fans to hear our stuff, so we started sending it out to everybody, and we just did that again. And so we made friends with all of the people there, and then the owner is a guy named Jonathan Sly, who books the bands. You know, he booked us on those 2 shows, 2018 and 2019. Now the festival was smaller then. 2018 had Lamb of God played the day that we played, Puddle of Mud. 2019 we played the day of the Offspring, and Godsmack, Stone Temple Pilots had played the day before. But so we're trying to get back in there. They know we are, but there's a lot of bands that are out there these days that are real popular, and you know, it's tough. But we think if we don't get in there this year, we've got some plans to do even more. And if it's not this year, we hope to be on there next year.
You definitely, just in your telling it that, you know, I can see your drive and your push to keep that train rolling. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I
And they're
feel like-
great people. We've made so many friends. In fact, we did this promotion where and I'll try and go quick. I know we've been talking for a while, but it's so hard to get people to hear your music. And so we just decided, well, we love this group so much that we just did a promotion where we'll send you the album for free if you want it. And that's what we did. We sent out 200 albums. And a lot of those people are from throughout Virginia and North Carolina, mostly this region. And I think coming out tonight, we have 10, maybe 12 people that were a part of that. And then they tell their friends. And so it was a wonderful thing. But that community, you know, we just realized, oh, you can just blow your money if you take a Facebook ad or whatever. But these are people who love rock music. And so we're really paying attention to that because that's where we can find real people that like our type of stuff.
And you know, you're putting it in the right hands. You're not throwing it out there for people that's not even thinking about it.
That's right.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
All right, so
We're gonna finish up. We do this on our show pretty regular. It's a thing called This or That. I don't know if y'all watch Sandy Hagar's Road Show, but he does the same thing. You just ask you 2 questions, no wrong answer, whatever.
whichever way you want to go with it.
Some of them might be hard, or
Should we go that way, this way?
We'll start with you and we'll roll it down. And then, so we got six questions in all. There's 2 things to pick from. If you want to explain your answer, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
Perfect.
So I'll start with this one because this is kind of linked back to the West Virginia thing. So, liquor store or backwoods moonshine?
Liquor store.
I've had backwoods moonshine before.
Depends on where it comes from. It could be good or it could be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough one. No, I'd say yeah, no, liquor store.
I got friends with skin in the game, so I'm going to say backwoods moonshine.
It's a tough one.
I'll stay with liquor store.
all right, best rock scene, East or West Coast?
Jesus, oh god.
You talking about right now?
Yeah. There's no wrong answer, so you know if you want to
East
just pass
Coast.
it off together.
There you go.
I don't know, for some reason LA just pops in my mind with like, especially with like rock music, so I'm just gonna go with West Coast.
Traitor.
East Coast.
East Coast. All right. This one might be hard for you. Alice in Chains or Soundgarden?
Alice in Chains.
Alice in Chains.
Alice in Chains.
It's still a difficult question, but it's Chris Cornell.
Yeah, I'll say Soundgarden since somebody else did it.
Now this one we always.
This one's a struggle for a lot of people.
Even though, you know, who was Josh down there, guitarist?
Oh, Jared James Nichols.
Yeah, even he was like, I was just an artist. Back in Black or Highway to Hell?
Oh, man, come on, you're killing me.
I was just talking about this with somebody the other night. I already know my answer.
Wow. People back in the day used to say my voice sounded a lot like Bon Scott. So, as much as I love Back in Black, I'm going to go with Highway to Hell.
I'd go with Back in Black.
Highway to Hell, there's no 2 ways about it.
Never heard of either.
All right. Eddie Van Halen or Randy Rhoads?
God, Jesus, man.
Randy Rhoads, Blizzard of Oz.
I mean, I gotta go with the King. I gotta go with King Edward.
I'm gonna say Randy Rhoads. I think he's unfairly treated these days with the review of the old recordings. But I think a lot of that is just his inner soul coming out of him.
Yeah.
You know, that's how
I've already done what he's done. Ozzy or Black Sabbath?
Oh, you know, I would have to say Black Sabbath because not only do I love Ozzy, but I love Geezer Butler as one of the best of all times, and Tony Iommi, just like, I mean, every metal band, rock band in the world is influenced by those guys. If they say they're not, then they just don't know.
they just haven't realized it yet.
That's right.
I think Sabbath too. I mean, they're one of the original metal bands, really. But the Ozzy's had some really fantastic additions over the years, so it's hard to answer that one. But I mean, just due to everybody's musical influence as to with like old metal, it's can't go wrong with Black Sabbath.
As I'm partial to the hair metal, I'm gonna say Ozzy.
Say Black Sabbath.
All right, I'm going to ask you, since you went Ozzy, favorite Ozzy guitarist, whole career.
Man,
Zakk Wylde.
I would have to say Zakk Wylde, and only because it fits more with the tone that I like to hear. I'm not saying that everybody else wasn't as good or better.
Oh no, Jake.
But like sonically, like the way he plays and his finger tone appeals to me a lot more than the other guys. I mean, I would say Randy's second, but I mean they've all been phenomenal.
You can't kick any of them out.
Yeah, I mean I saw Ozzy at Nissan Pavilion a couple years ago when they came through, and Zakk Wylde had come back for that string of shows, and I had seen him play with Black Label Society, different things, but it literally just blew my friggin' mind just watching him play.
I had a friend, that was the first time he had seen, and he said he is a show in himself.
Yes.
And
yes.
even when
so
he
saw
watched
the same show.
Yeah, he said
it's unbelievable.
Zach was incredible.
Yeah.
He said I've never, and he was incredible even on that little clip we saw from the Rams game, the football game where Ozzy played this year. And Zach's out there 100% rock star. The other two guys are dressed in khakis and stuff. Zach's out there with his kill.
Oh yeah, he's got the whole gear on. Yeah.
Well, I know this. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, not only Black Label Society, but now he's playing Pantera's music.
I was gonna actually say, I know it's kind of a blaspheme talking about comparing Dimebag to anybody, but the stuff I've seen him do at Pantera is phenomenal. It's just, I'm not trying to take from Dimebag.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I don't want to say controversy, but there's a lot of back and forth with people, whether they are doing the right thing or not. They couldn't have asked for a better guy to do it. I mean, they're buds.
Yeah,
like
they're good friends.
Yeah. So,
They both have a similar style of playing too. They have a lot of soul with their playing. Yeah. They don't just get up there, grip it, and rip it with no emotion behind it. They really,
And they're keeping the music alive.
Well, they both did what they call learn to play at the woodshed. That figure of speech. Where they put the time in.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys these days don't seem like they put the time in that, Eddie Van Halen played guitar in the bathroom. I mean, I was how much he played guitar. I saw him on some TV news radio or something, and he's like walking out of the bathroom to sing with his guitar. And I'm like, that's probably not even ad-lib. That's
Well, Joe Holmes doesn't get a lot of love either. I mean, he was for a little bit, but he's.
Well, I mean, Ozzy's had quite a few guitar players. He's even had session musicians tour with him. So, and I think it's Robert Trujillo. I mean, he was playing with Ozzy during the era too, and most people don't even put that together.
Yeah,
they see him as Metallica.
Well, Jason Newsted played with Ozzy a little while too. We saw him the year we saw him live with Jason and Zach. We want to wrap this up.
Yeah, I know we've held y'all up, but
No, man,
we've
had a great talk with you guys, man. Thank you so
we
much,
always
man.
love talking
Appreciate
music.
it, Jeff.
And
Thanks a lot.
Can't wait to see you guys perform tonight. I know we got a little bit of a snippet with the sound check, but I'm sure. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about seeing you guys play tonight, and
Thanks.
hopefully we can get you some more fans out there. And we always try to help push, especially newer bands to us. That I mean, I know you guys have been out doing your thing and
Thank you so
running
much,
that train
man.
as hard as you can.
No,
And so
we really
enjoy trying to push out and help as many bands as we can. So.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, it really means a lot to us that y'all would come and do this interview with us and help us. And so, thank you guys.
Well, in these times, I mean, anything that we can do, little or big, we're always there trying to help, do what we can. So, hopefully hopefully, we'll get you at least 1 or 2 more anyway. But like I said, we got people all over Japan and Europe and everywhere. So if we can get you out there even further, it's the least we can do. So
Awesome.
Much appreciated.
Thanks
You're
again,
entertaining
guys.
us, so,
yeah.
you know, we do the best we can do.
We are so grateful to you guys.
All right.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, man.